Hey guys. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but I look like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer because I'm dealing with a pretty horrendous cold. Got my tissues here, but if you see jump cuts, it's because I cut out my coughing, sneezing, nose blowing, whatever. But I have news. Um, so about 2 weeks ago, I made a video hinting that something in my house had changed, but I was afraid to talk about it and jinx it and have it disappear because that's what trauma brain does. I'm ready to tell you what happened. It's a little bit of a story, but last year, as you know, was really bad. The December of 2023 just was really bad. I've talked about it before. I had to have my cat Monroe put down, and then on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and New Year's Eve, my dad had very severe falls. And then in January, he had to go to the hospital because his hip was hurting him really, really bad. And it turns out he'd fractured it, but just a very small, thin crack, not like a catastrophic break that he had in 2020. So for a lot of January, he was in the hospital, and then he got kind of thrown back home to us because Medicare didn't care. They wouldn't pay for more than a couple weeks, even though we were promised like 100 days, like a couple months. And and on New Year's Eve, I attempted to end. So, yeah. And after my dad got sent home, and there was just a huge snafu for getting a hospital bed in here because he can't stay in a standard bed anymore. He'll fall out, because he lists to the side like this because of his Parkinson's, and he would just tumble out of a bed. And that's how he ended up in the hospital, because he gotten twisted, and we think that's how he fractured his hip. And anyway, it healed. It was a year ago. That's healed. But when all this was going down, I cried out to my church choir. I just broke down at choir practice. And I just told them everything. And there goes my nose. And I was very blunt about the fact that I attempted to end my life, and I was crying. Like, my whole choir, they were just scared and worried about me. And there's this guy in my choir named Greg, who happens to work for a company called Right at Home, which it's like visiting angels. And he put my mom into contact with someone that got my dad onto Medicaid. Okay, and it took from January, well, we kind of started talking about it in January, but in May, my mom just started making the serious efforts to fill out the paperwork and get it moving. Well, the very end of December, it came through that we now have a caregiver every day of the week. We have one lady that comes from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. on weekdays, and then we have another lady who comes on Saturday. It's 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. and on Sunday it's 8:45 to 12:45 so that my mom can go to church. So the weekday caregiver, I'll call her Izzy for her privacy, and the weekend caregiver is Jenny, and that's what I'll call her for her privacy. So we have caregivers in here that can focus on my dad so that we can actually live a life. And it's because of Greg, because he put us in touch with people that, when my mom said we were told we don't qualify for Medicaid, the lady she talked to, her name was Sean, she's like, that is nonsense. I don't know who told you that, but you do qualify. Here's what you do. And she, it took a long time, but we're here. And I'm stunned. Like, just stunned, because I don't have to be on all the time. We can relax, because the caregiver is there to focus solely on my dad so that me and mom can just live and not have to be tied to the house. We can go out, at least from like Monday to Saturday. Sunday, that's going to be a day where there's just just enough time to go to church. So about 4 hours, so that mom can go to church, come home, and get dad cleaned up and stuff. And now she has help to do that. But it's like I've heard that trauma symptoms can get worse when you are leaving the traumatic situation you were in, or if there's a change in it. So I'm kind of holding my breath a little bit because there's still that part of me that's scared that something's going to happen, that it's going to get taken away. And I mean, with Trump in office, thanks to every jerk that voted for Trump, it could. And I just hope not. I hope Trump leaves medical care alone. I just don't want him to touch it. But as of right now, I'm not cured of my depression, my anxiety, and my trauma. This does not mean I'm cured of it. But it's like I have some kind of hope for a future that I haven't had since 2020. I actually feel again like life might actually be worth it. Because it hasn't felt like it was worth it for a long time. 2020 basically, when my dad was pretty much bedridden, I just thought that's it. Our freedom is gone. And then this happened. And it's because I broke down in front of my choir, and it's like I was a catalyst for something. And my mom actually picked it up and ran with it because it's been hard to get her to act, to do anything. But here's what's really good though, is that now that she's not the one that has to like muscle dad out of bed all the time, her back is feeling better. It was the strain of holding the walker down while he has to get himself up out of bed because he's got nothing to grip onto like he does with a wheelchair or the toilet commode that has arms. On the bed, he has to basically rock himself up and use the walker. And I can't do that because he just flips the walker over with me on it. I don't weigh enough to hold it down. So, and it's not something he can help. I mean, he has Parkinson's. His body doesn't do what bodies should do. So, but something good happened. And this year, I'm just emotionally in such a different place than I was last year. And I don't know what my feelings are doing right now. It's confusing because, it's like I should be happy, and yet if I allow myself to be too happy, something will ruin it. So it's like I'm almost afraid to just embrace the joy and the hope. And it's like I'm kind of holding it at arm's length instead of just bringing it to myself. But maybe eventually I will. Maybe eventually I will absorb it. But right now I'm just kind of holding it in my hand and just looking at it and knowing that it's there. So things have gotten a little better here. And I haven't smiled like that in a while. That's been a long time. But it's better here. It does get better. You just, when you're at the end of your rope, tie a knot and hang on. And remember why you hung on so long. Because I was basically hanging on by the knot on the end of the rope. That was all I had in my hands. And now it's like I've got more rope. I can climb. Instead of just hanging, I can climb. I can go somewhere. So I hope for that for you too. Love you and happy holidays.